Welcome to the Social Priority Podcast. I'm Star Panda, and today we have a conversation on Rebellion Pack, Gamergate, and what it is today. But first, we have the Executive Director of Rebellion Pack and former U.S. House candidate, Brianna Wu.
And gamer, we're talking on Discord. I feel like gamer is a very important qualification for Discord.
That absolutely is.
Yes.
Gamer is the most important qualification.
I think the most relevant qualification for this conversation would be I am the second fastest Princess Peach speedrunner in the entire world at Super Mario 2 Advance. So that is very critical information.
Oh my god, I did not know that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm huge into speedrunning. I spent all day today actually trying to find a PlayStation with a decent laser in it so I can do a speedrun on original hardware of the original Resident Evil from, what was that, 1995? So, yeah.
Wow.
That's what I'm working on right now.
That's pretty impressive, actually.
Are you a speedrunner at all? Do you do it?
I am not, but I love watching them. They're really interesting to me.
It's great. A good speedrun makes the game seem like it's very easy. And it's not. You're seeing like thousands of hours of work.
I think some of my favorite things from speedrunning, especially like in the Ocarina of Time ones, is like completely skipping the game by like glitching through a wall.
So I want to be clear, I appreciate that, and no disrespect to any of the people that do those. I personally find the speedruns that rely a lot on tech and arbitrary code execution, kind of those things, like an out of bounds trick, that's legit depending on how it's done. Like there's one in Tomb Raider where you skip vast sections of it by backing up against a door and drawing Laura's bow again and again until you zip through it. That's fine, but I think the Ocarina of Time ones are so crazy technical in how you execute them down to the pixel that it's to me it's just not fun to run, if that makes sense to you. So it's just fair. Not what I personally gravitate towards.
Do you prefer 100% runs or any percent?
No, I like any percent runs. The main thing I look for is games with a female character in them, which is hard because the NES era was like really sexist. So there are only like 10 games to choose from. You can go to the Super Nintendo era and it's a little bit better, but we've sucked at this for a long time. So it's hard.
So, how have you been lately?
At what? Just everything?
Just everything. How has your life been?
We finished the midterms. I mean, I thought we kicked some serious butt on that.
How do you feel about what we won so far?
Well, I've been saying this from the beginning. There's a really big difference a difference of perspective that you get when you work in this field. And a lot of Rebellion Pack people come to us and they're like, we would like to do polls. And you ask them really detailed questions about the methodology of the polls and like how they're conducted. And once it was my job to start doing, science on political races, I really quickly came to understand how flawed the methodology was to the point where it's like, I'm not sure this is a good use of $40,000, guys. Maybe we should invest in field instead. So the whole time I was looking at the polls and I'm looking at the models that they're using, which very consistently seem to undersample the voting efficacy or the willingness to go vote of women and queer people. And I saw them really oversampling, in my opinion, Republicans. And I just thought, I'm like, having worked with polling firms, I'm like, it's mostly white dudes there. I just think they got this wrong. So I kind of expected us to have the result that we did. But we also got that result because we worked very hard on it.
So absolutely.
Yeah.
I know that in several states there were referendums that really drove people out to vote.
Yeah.
I knew before, like when those really, I don't know the word, I guess more substantial polls were coming out, like the ones that were predicting that the Republicans were going to have like a red wave or something. I was
Mhm.
thinking like they aren't like talking about the younger voters, are they? Because like they're, I think they did a huge part of like really coming out to vote because of what's been happening over the summer.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
I do. And from the pollster's point of view, it's a really easy to mistake to make, right? You can only like you have to do some modeling to come up with the result, just because it's not like it was 20 years ago where you're calling everyone's phone. You have to have a model that says, okay, we think X number of young people are going to vote because it's harder to talk to them. We're going to estimate this with some mixture of real calls and sampling and online polls. That's fine. And I understand how, because younger people have not historically voted as much, they would undersample that. My larger point is, I don't think it's just this election where that's a problem. Polls, we commission polls at Rebellion Pack if we're trying to say Nina Turner's race, trying to figure out what issues are salient in that race, as we're doing a lot of TV ads or radio ads. We want to know what people are thinking to put together effective advertising, right? I can't It's useful for that because it's like, oh, well, minimum wage, this polls at 60% of the district thinks this is very important. That's a big difference from saying, okay, with this race is like within a point of each other and we're trying to figure out who's winning. At that point, it's like, pick your model. Some part of it's going to be inaccurate, right?
mm.
So I don't think it's that useful for that anymore.
You were talking about Rebellion Pack, that you are
Sure.
the executive
I
director of.
am. I
What
am.
exactly is Rebellion Pack?
It's an interesting story. So, Jank over at Young Turks, he and I were running for Congress at the same time. And, just to really tell the conversation, he was being attacked with a bunch of stuff that I didn't think was fair. I've been watching Young Turks since 2002. And, I could point you to any number of sexist statements that, Sam Cedar has made, that Jank has made. Like every one of these shows has had problematic moments, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you look at Jank's record as a whole, he was being made out by Twitter to be some sort of raving misogynist. And just in my experience watching his show, I don't think he is. So, I said so on Twitter, and I took a bunch of lumps for that. And then when we both lost our races, he reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to start a pack together, and I did. So basically, we are a special operations group for elections. So like a really good example is Nina Turner's race. Jank really wanted us to go win that race, so he comes knocks on my door. We raise $250,000 in I think it was 3 weeks. Put together a ton of TV ads, radio ads, and tried our best to help her win that race.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
I really was disappointed when she lost. I really wanted her to win.
Yeah, I think so too.
So, what exactly is your role in Rebellion Pack?
I come from the startup world, so think of me as like, do you know that scene in the movie where you go to like some spec ops operator and they're like, oh, we need you for one more mission.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'll go call my team. That's me. I'm very comfortable putting things together very quickly and just executing a mission objective. So, like, for Nina Turner's race, it was, raise a bunch of money in a short period of time, go do all the legal vetting, get television ads out. Sometimes, like in Georgia, for 2020, for the 2020 election, I had a couple of weeks to put together an entire canvassing team to go down there and knock on doors. So really it depends on what the mission is, whether it's door knocking or ads or getting data together or doing a bunch of data science behind the scenes. I just take that information and run with it.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds really great. Are there other races you were involved in?
I can't always talk about what I'm doing because of FEC rules.
Sure, yeah.
So I can say I'm working on some stuff right now, and I can say we've really got our eye on this new Georgia race. I grew up in Mississippi, which is just next door, and it's a place I know very well. And I really want Warnock to win. I think he's a good candidate.
Yeah, I do too. I was more talking about like in the past, like was it more than just Nina Turner, or have
Oh my God, yeah. We went all in on trying to get Trump out of office, and we certainly support a bunch of progressive candidates as we can along the way. We're one of the few PACs that you can reach out to if you're a progressive candidate, and we'll look at sending you a max donation of $2,900. So, we really what I've grown to learn about progressive politics is it's not that our ideas are worse, it's that we don't have the infrastructure that the core party does. And I think if we're serious about taking over the Democratic Party, we need people that sit here and think as seriously as I do all day about data, identifying voters, figuring out who responds to certain issues, getting digital hit lists to target them, just start figuring these things out and building the infrastructure that makes campaigns work. When I ran for Congress, I believe we had to pay the Massachusetts Democratic Party like $20,000 for our just the voter file, and that's just to go figure out who we've got to talk to. That's a really tall lift for a progressive candidate.
Yeah.
So I believe very strongly we need to be building our own infrastructure.
Why do you have to pay so much for that?
It's how the party makes money. It's a gatekeeping operation, and the argument for it is they've they do all this, like they go to the Secretary of State and they segment out this data for you. I mean, in reality, it's just a spreadsheet they're handing you of who's voted and when. So, I think it's very overpriced personally.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it. Does your PAC coordinate with other PACs or organizations?
We do. I can't always talk about that.
Yeah, that's fair.
But one thing a PAC cannot do is coordinate with the campaign. So
yeah.
Like the Warnock race, I can. I'm thinking about going down there and just knocking on doors in my personal capacity, right? Like I pay my own money to go down there, pay my own money to stay in a hotel. The PAC isn't paying for that. That's legal. If we were to go do a bunch of television ads, I can't call Warnock's, campaign on the phone and go, "Hey, what issues are salient for y'all over there? What do you really want to see us hit your opponent on?" That's a coordination thing that we can't do because it's just flat out illegal. So
yeah,
one of the hardest parts of my job is actually figuring out the FAC laws and trying to stay in compliance with it.
So, if you are comfortable, tell me what exactly happened to you during the whole Gamergate debacle.
Oh man, Gamergate was 8 years ago at this point.
Yeah, it
Long
was a
story
while ago.
short, yeah, it was back when I was a game developer, and long story short, a bunch of people kept targeting my friends in game development online. A lot of people think this story with Zoe Quinn. It didn't. Throughout 2014, there were a lot of women in the game industry that were being targeted. It certainly blew up with Zoe Quinn, but I was a very outspoken opponent of Gamergate from the beginning. Eventually, they targeted me to the point I had to leave my house. They sent me such an avalanche of death threats and rape threats that they actually made a Law and Order episode about it, and it was, swear to God, warfare. The reason we're still talking about Gamergate today is Gamergate was essentially a playbook that was then adopted by the wider alt-right and the Donald Trump campaign. Steve Bannon very specifically took this Gamergate playbook, which is, find a target, go through their entire life, controversialize them, and tell white men they're under attack. This is a playbook that we see repeated over and over and over and over again. It's happened with, obviously Trump getting elected. It's happened with QAnon, who, by the way, was 1/3 of the January 6th insurrection. QAnon actually directly spawns from Gamergate and 8chan. So,
Really?
it came from the same site. That's where Q originally started from. 8chan. 8chan was a direct response to 4chan banning the discussion of Gamergate. So, like, all these things in this playbook are related in this really terrifying way. And today you can see this incel movement, which is, let's face it, at times it can be very violent and deadly. It's all part of this playbook of radicalizing young men. It's very scary.
It is very scary, and
yeah,
I feel like you're right. Like, they've been like, I guess the pipeline has been I don't know the word for it, but like, it's sped up, like, I think at this point, like, we have some blocks in place to keep people from, or like, changing people's minds who have been down that rabbit hole, but it's still sort of that issue there where people are still seeing these videos and getting on to the hate train with anti-SJWs and all that.
Right. I mean, it's the same thing Musk is doing too, right?
Yeah.
Like, these are all very familiar talking points. Hey, you're being censored. The journalistic elites are not doing anything is correct. Power to the people. We've got the truth. And by the way, enjoy this conspiracy theory about Hillary Clinton. It's all this really dark playbook. It's factual that the GRU, the Russian GRU, actually saw Gamergate and adopted those techniques for their information warfare efforts against the United States. This is information warfare only works by exacerbating existing divisions in a society. And, this like, women asking to not be harassed in the gaming industry is just a perfect example of that. So, the Gamergate is extremely important, not because of what happened to me in 2014. Those death threats did cause PTSD for me, but I had a good therapist. I'm many years past it. I'm fine now. We're still talking about it because it was a playbook that has been co-opted and implemented by some truly dark forces in this world. And, frankly, that's why the television show is coming out about it soon.
Oh, there's a television show.
Oh, yeah. I'm one of the producers on it. So Norman Lear's production company, Act 3, is helping us produce it. So it's very exciting.
What's it going to be called?
Gamergate.
Oh, perfect.
Pretty straightforward.
Makes sense.
Yes.
Do you know where we can find it?
It's so early, we can't get into those kind of details
That's
yet.
fair.
But I can say we're very excited to be doing it. It's It was really hard to figure out the right angle for it
Hmm.
because you know I almost feel like the feminist harassment angle is the least interesting part of it, and it's really hard to tell that part of the story and not have it be a melodrama.
It's been
The
covered a lot.
it has.
Yeah.
To me, the interesting part of that is I want to have a conversation about why are men so angry? Where did an entire generation kind of it feels to me like a lot of them were going off the rails at a certain point. I mean, you look at the number of friends young men have today. You look at how much sex they have today, and it's a fraction of what it was when I was a teenager in the '90s. I think these are serious questions that our society needs to deal with. So, the Gamergate TV show is, don't get me wrong, like we have villains in our show, but we're looking at this and going like, what the hell happened? Why are they doing this? Why is this okay? What are the forces that are normalizing this? How do we bring people back from this brink? And we're exploring that. I think that's a very interesting question.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I'm excited to look. I am looking forward to it, I should say.
100%.
Um, so you mentioned about like Gamergate starting with harassing female employees
Yep.
in gaming, basically.
Yeah.
Uh, let's see. What um, do you think today there is a little bit of a tug of war still going on with
Oh
that?
yeah. Oh yeah. Look at the news. I mean,
Yeah.
look at what's happening in California with Activision, right?
Mhm.
I mean, you had a woman that was basically mis
Bullied to death.
she's bullied to death, and then her coworkers shared nudes of her around the office
Yeah, that was awful.
after she died by suicide. Yeah, this problem has not gotten better. I do think it's gotten a little better on the journalism side. I
Hmm.
do see more young women working at IGN today, for instance. When Gamergate happened, the number of women you can count on one hand that had any kind of editorial role. So, but I think within the industry itself, it's the same old song.
Yeah, there's definitely more of an awareness, I feel like, in gaming that like we should probably do something about the amount of women being represented versus like the people playing the games, because I'm pretty sure it's 50-50, right?
Sure.
Um and there's definitely that feeling that uh they things could get better soon because of what's happening to Activision, because like there's a huge spotlight now on that, and I think in journalism they will, or I don't know if they will, but like I really hope they do, like shed more light on what's happening. I guess not only to female employees, but to like employees in general, because I think it's not only like harassment and stuff like that. I think it's even that like the culture in general, I'd say, of game development, like I guess persisting through uh hurting their employees, basically, like not letting them have a life outside of that employer.
Oh, I can tell you as a game developer, it's certainly a predatory work environment.
Hmm.
I also want to be a little bit cynical here, and I hope that's okay.
Go
I'm
for
just
it.
telling you my honest opinion here. I think one of the things, if I redid Gamergate today that I would do differently is, look, I did a great job bringing awareness to the problem. I think we're more aware of it today than we were in 2014, that women in games are getting the short end of the stick. But what's the plan? What's the damn plan to make it better? What are the steps of action that we are going to take? Awareness, visibility without protection is a trap. And the way I feel about this is, Nina Sarkeesian talked a lot about the input side of the industry, output side of the industry, rather. Let's look at the sexist tropes we're bringing to games. For me, I was always very focused on the input side of it. Who's making it to lead a creative development team? Who's making it to be a senior programmer, right? Who is the team lead? How often do women make it to that role? And I think the thing that I would do differently is I would have worked more on accountability there, because you're right, we have awareness, but jack is being done to implement or change any of that awareness. Go look at the credits of any video game out there and look at who the leads are. The outcome is we have more women. They're being accepted to the bottom, the start of the industry, but they're being chewed up and spit out just like everyone else is. But this horrifically sexist machine. I also, don't get me wrong, I ran for Congress. I live in a very pro-union district. I'm 1,000% for unionizing the workplace. But I would urge anyone looking at this issue to not conflate the idea of worker protections being synonymous with women's protection at work. Because from what I've seen historically in the game industry, I think there's no reason to believe that if the workplaces are unionized tomorrow, that the men in these fields are magically going to make promoting women fairly and treating them fairly, a priority. What I saw running for Congress was talking to a bunch of unions, and it was all white men leading those unions. I don't think I ever talked to a single woman. So I think both struggles are very important, but don't mistake one for the other. I am interested in women getting a fair shake at work, and I think the unionization of the workplace is it's not a separate problem, but it's a different problem, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely can be a huge issue with leadership, especially if that leadership is continuing that kind of, I guess, I don't want to say a persecution, but I guess it kind of is.
Structural sexism.
Yeah, basically. And those kinds of people kind of continue that in the workplace where it doesn't belong.
Yeah. What's the plan what is the plan to make sure women are going to be treated, paid fairly, promoted fairly in a unionized workplace? Show that to me and I will amend my statement. I see it being talked about like it's a panacea, and I just don't think we can assume it to be so. I think we would have to fight for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry if that's too dark.
No, you're fine. I like being real on this podcast. We will get to the solutions part though, and talk about what we think we should do to solve that. But getting back to the topic of Gamergate, more broadly, I guess, it has, I would say, lately gotten a little bit less relevant. The general, I guess, movement of anti-SJW, I guess, fuckery, I should say.
Yeah. Do you think so?
I think generally it has.
Why do you think that?
I only think that because I think a lot more people are coming to the realization, especially younger people, that the people who are anti-SJW or who are saying woke a lot are kind of talking out of their ass. Because I don't know if it's who I'm hanging around or what, but I'm seeing a lot more people know what people are talking about when they talk about this stuff.
Right.
Anti-SJW YouTubers have become much less prominent than before. Those people like the Quartering, I'd say, they're, I guess, I feel like they've become irrelevant. Now there are what you can consider anti-SJW YouTubers who are I would see as more conservative YouTubers who basically act as media cudgels to those kinds of issues, which is probably what you're more thinking of as that kind of Gamergate continuation, right?
This is my perspective. It's a different perspective. So one of the things I've been doing a lot with writing the Gamergate TV show is I can't just stay in 2014, like a lot of it takes place today, and asking where these forces went. And I think you look at someone like the Destiny YouTube channel, and there's a lot of misogyny that's on that channel. Not just, I'm not talking like him. I think he's a complicated figure that I think it's a lot deeper conversation than he is or is not a misogynist, but I certainly think that he's having conversations increasingly with a lot of misogynists. I think you had the Fresh and Fit podcast, which is a wildly popular podcast, which is just red pill propaganda. I think you've got someone like Andrew Tate, which, he caught on like wildfire with the generation of young boys for a reason. It was the Gamergate playbook. Tell them they're victims. Tell them all this, PC stuff is a bunch of garbage. Tell them how great women have it and how feminism is not important. And I think that you look at the wider Republican Party. Ron DeSantis has been wildly successful, and we did win this election, I think, but we won it by a percentage point, right? So I would really urge people to not assume that it's getting better. This playbook is extremely salient with a large proportion, nearly a majority of the population, in my opinion.
That's completely fair. Yeah, I honestly I didn't remember about the stuff like the Fresh and Fit podcast because for me it was kind of just a flash in the pan type of thing. Because I guess I don't realize how prominent that kind of thing is. I guess because I'm not really in that kind of area of the internet,
Sure.
I guess, let me get your opinion. Do you think the left has fortified itself in a way to push back against that, or do you think we have a long way to go?
Again, honest. I'm going to be honest with you. What I see from the left is a stunning inability to do realpolitik, right? I think that there's a tendency on the left to believe we understand how the world should go. We have our own values. This is how it should be. And we seem to really enjoy like stating the way that the world should be. I think that we suck profoundly at turning it into a marketable message or actually taking action on that. So what I think we've been very successful at doing is taking a generation of young people and being like, look, this is how you talk about trans people, right? This is how we talk about women. This is how, these are the problems that people of color face in this country. This is what we need to be thinking about when it comes to wealth inequality and unionization. I think we have excelled at that. But I think that we are frankly stupid at the way we try to market these messages to an audience outside of ourselves. One of the reasons I'm such a fan of Hassan is I think he is tremendously good at marketing those messages and making them simple and understandable to a mass audience. If I were a billionaire, I would like hire 100 Hassans to do nothing and make my own Fox News to like train the population in that way of thinking. And I think that we've got to get a lot more comfortable in kind of couching our messages in ways that the mass public can understand. Something I learned when I ran for office is I literally went out there and I estimate that I talked to over 40,000 people, 40,000 conversations, 40,000 hands shaken. And I got to tell you, most of them were not other tech feminists that spent the majority of their time on Twitter. These are people out there in the real world, and they're just not having the same conversation that we have. They have the same ideals, but they don't think about it in the same kind of Manichean black and white terms that we do. So I think that what I would really propose to the left is to think a lot more about how we put our messages forward so we can get more people on our side and win more of the policies that we believe in.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
I mean, how do you feel? How do you feel about that?
I think I agree with you. I do think having more Hassans to like I guess reach those people who are in the real world and not just like latent with Twitter and online discourse is a lot more important. Especially because like a lot of people who are voting aren't completely online like some of us are. And I don't know exactly how we go about doing that, because like there's different, I guess, like with CNN and Twitter, like the main places that we're seeing are being bought up by right-wingers, like the things that people see the most. And as we can see from like the studies that we've seen, the right is more prominent online, like being favored in the algorithm, you know? So it's difficult. I'm not sure what the exact answer to that is.
I do. I think one of the problems is when liberals get together and build things, we care about principles like journalism. When the right wing's billionaires got together and built something, they built Fox News, right? I think we have a real problem with getting our message out on the left. When I look at who the most effective people are at getting our message out, who are they? It's Sam Cedar. It's my boss, Jank. It is, Hassan. I think Destiny, sometimes, maybe, kind of, not really. In some conversations, maybe. But my point is, when you think about our communicators, our people that can make that argument to a mass public, we don't fund them. And I think that that's a real failure of the left. I think we've got to build a media Death Star, to be honest with you, if we're going to be serious about just being able to save democracy in this country. Because you sure can't count on CNN or MSNBC to do it. I love going on those shows. I always appreciate it, but don't kid yourself. They have a massive pro-establishment bias.
Right.
And I think if we're serious about getting this country to a healthy position, I think that's going to involve I think it's going to involve some things that are going to upset the establishment, like higher taxes. So there it is.
Well, let me ask you this. How are we actually going to do that, though? Because, like, it's really difficult to, like, do a grassroots for, let's say, a media company. So, like, the right and the center has these billionaires that can easily buy up and propagate their own information, let's say, for themselves. But like, how does the left do that?
Well, I don't think it's not like these messages aren't popular. I mean, look at Twitch, right? Like, look at who's successful on Twitch. Even the non-political channels like Pokemon, like, she's not out there talking about, y'all, we gotta go all right, we gotta do it, like she's even within this kind of a band of how she communicates, and she's massively successful. So I think there's a media model out there for it. I think it's even easier in the YouTube age. If you're really asking me what I think someone with some real skill needs to go raise a few $100 million and build the equivalent of an Apple TV, but it's free to watch and will just give you nonstop left programming all day. That's Twitch style. I think that's how we do it. I think it can make money, and I think it would be wildly successful in getting our messages out. So that's how I do it.
Do you think there's anything similar that we have?
No, I don't. I think Twitch, unfortunately, is so siloed with about 20 successful creators who are kind of all doing their own thing, which is why there's so much drama on Twitch.
Yeah.
Because they all kind of hate each other at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I actually have a theory about Twitch. I think if Twitch is going to succeed and be financially viable for the next 10 years, I think they need to start courting an older audience. I think that what makes Twitch such an exciting place to spend time is the community aspect and feeling like you're hanging out with friends. And I think there are people that would like to do that are older than, what is Train saying today? What did XQC say about Hassan? What's Pokemon doing? Was she involved with this Adriana stuff? I think that these tools can be used for a conversation that's frankly more sophisticated than a bunch of teenage drama. So, and I think that you could like fill a very successful Twitch channel, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, you mean like a Twitch channel for various
Yeah, like if I had $100 million raise round right now and I was at Series A, this is what I would do. Hassan's not quite old enough yet. I'd go find some really talented 30-somethings and I'd put them on Twitch all day long and I'd simulcast it on Facebook Live and YouTube and make sure we stuck with the TOS. And I would say, here it is in your contract, no drama with other channels, cause drama with anyone else. That's good viewership. And I would try to do a user-supported model for that. And my thinking with that is if we can build these communities and build our own basically news Death Star, I think that it would go out there and give us a counterpunch to Fox News. We have the facts on our side, so I think you put us in that situation, we win.
That's actually a really interesting idea. I kind of hope to see that.
I've thought about racing it for quite a bit. Yeah, I've always felt like one of my skills on the left is I have a really good ability to go raise money. And it's one of the reasons I haven't run for Congress again is, I'm looking around to other progressives and I'm going, who here has raised as much money as I have? And I'm like, no one. So I think we need people with like that startup mentality in the progressive world trying to build cool things.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you ever decide to raise money for one, I am on call to do whatever is necessary.
100%.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on. It was a great conversation.
I always feel like I talk too much. Did I not ask you anything about you? I should have.
It's a podcast, and it's my show. Okay. You are the guest.
All right. Fair enough. Well, thank you for having me on.
Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to plug?
So please come follow me at Brianna Wu on Twitter while you still can before Elon bans me. I think I am pretty hot on there right now. I've had viral tweets just about every day for the last 2 weeks making fun of him. So, like my greatest accomplishment is yesterday I log on and I see that I am literally in a birdwatch fact-checking Elon Musk on Twitter underneath something he has tweeted, which is the greatest day of my life.
That's hilarious.
It was great. It was on engineering, too. It was like, you don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, please follow me on Twitter while you can.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for having me on.